So they put in this guy, this BS artist, who said he's going to, new day, transparency, everything's going to be different. And you wake up and the same thing is that's not only different, it's worse. The people go almost on a riot saying we don't want socialized medicine. We're kind of happy with the medical care system we have. And he calls them Nazis. Nancy Pelosi says they're crazy, they're Nazis, they're fascists. You hear? It's unbelievable to me that this woman, this out-of-control wretch called Nancy Lugosi. Why do I call her Nancy Lugosi? Because it reminds me of Bela Lugosi in a horror movie. Every day it's like another horror show. But let's get back to this. You want to hear another shock to your system? The Senate Democrat Leninist Party today blocked a U.S. citizenship question from the census, meaning there was a question that said, are you a U.S. citizen, that the communists called Democrats, because make no mistake about it, the Democrat Party today is the Communist Party USA. The official platform of CPUSA and the Democrats is almost the same. The CPUSA, Communist Party USA, and the Democrats are almost identical. I don't care what they say on MSNBC. Those deviants and perverts don't matter to me. Why shouldn't you ask someone who you're including in a U.S. census if you're a citizen? The answer is because they want to include as many non-citizens as possible so they can steal your country from you. The same way they're flooding the military and the police and every other institution with people who might shoot you in the back. And I'll stop right there. You know what's going on. You know what's going on. You knew in your heart who this was. You knew it in your heart who this was. You knew it. You knew it and I knew it. You knew it and I knew it. You knew it and I knew it. But you couldn't even say it, could you? You weren't allowed to even think it. In fact, you could be arrested for thinking it before it happened. New York City, WOR Roger, what was the first thought that entered your mind before the identity of the shooter was made known? Roger, go ahead, please.
Islamic immediately, or I thought it was, and then second to that, I thought it was a military coup.
Interesting. My first thought was not Islam. My first thought was because Obamacare is in trouble. I'm telling you where my mind went. That this is going to turn out to be some kind of militia inside the military, an attempt to take over the military coup by, Christian, you know what I'm saying? And then we're going to use that as an opportunity to seize our weapons, etc. I mean, my mind did go there, I'll tell you right now. That was my worst fear. But I usually stop my worst fears when I think of what General Patton wrote, which is never give counsel to your fears. And I cut that off. The next thought was, is he a Muslim? Was this a sleeper cell? Did he whack these guys because he did it for his religious beliefs? I mean, that went through my mind too, Roger.
I was half asleep. I live in Seward Park, right near Katz, not far from there, the Lower East Side. And I was half asleep. I thought, well, the news is on, and then it pops up. And then I see this, what's going on? And then I freak out. Islam, or 7 Days in May. The film I think about all the time is going to happen. Inevitably, I feel like we're never going to have another president again. I feel like it's totally the end. And
wait, what do you mean 7 days in May? What do you mean, that we've already had an infiltrator put into the White House? You're not saying that, are you?
Huh? With the film Days in May, when the military decide to take over.
So you feared a military coup?
A military coup, and they were stopped. I said, if they were white men, they could have been a military coup, and they were ordered to stop them immediately, and they got killed. Or the first thing was Islamic. They know there's Islamic in the military, in all the military, these cells. The government knows it. And then who shows up right after this whole thing? Howdy Doody. I call the president Howdy Doody. He looks like a marionette with strings, you know?
Did you hear him go on for over 2 minutes about the health care bill? When you're sitting there waiting for him to speak about the shooting and he's talking about the Indian reservation and the health care bill? He looked like Alfred E. Newman to me. The man did not have one word to say about the shooting until 2 minutes and 20 seconds into the speech. Did you hear that or not?
No, I didn't hear it all because I was half asleep. And he popped on because I went through the stations after I heard that on Channel 2 News, CBS, while I had it.
Well, here's a little news for you, a little more news about Madam Lugosi. She broke her pledge minutes ago to put the final health care bill online for 72 hours before the vote. How does she get away with this, Roger?
I don't know. I think there's clones of her. I mean, she's surreal. I think she doesn't even, she looks like she's in there's a film or something about it.
All right, I understand. I hear you. This is enough already. I hear you. Go have a corned beef on club with some French fries and a lot of ketchup and call me after 2 aspirin. 1-800-449-8255. Well, the aspirin are good to cut down on the potential for the fat blocking the artery. Take some fish oil along with. Imagine if they had given out fish oil in Katz's in the 50s. Half the men who were in the potato fields would still be alive. Well, that's my dark sense of humor. What can I tell you? San Antonio, what can you tell me? Mason, you're up on the Savage Nation.
Good evening, Dr. Savage. I'm active duty Marine Corps, and I wanted to point out that this is actually not the first time something like this has happened. When we kicked off the ground war in Iraq and major forces were staging in Kuwait, there was an Army soldier, convert to Islam, who ran into his battalion CP tent and detonated a grenade. And unfortunately, he survived and is now doing life in Leavenworth. And I also wanted to point it out.
Yes, I do remember that sad incident. Yes, that's right. He rolled a grenade while the men were sleeping. He killed about a dozen, didn't he?
That's correct. And I tell you, I'm stationed at Lackland Air Force Base, and on a daily basis, it's not unreasonable to see a Saudi, an Egyptian, or some other Middle Eastern exchange officer walking around free at will. And every day I see him, it makes me more and more nervous that one of these guys is going to get a wild...
Well, now, Mason, you should be investigated by the Muslim converted psychiatrist to see if you're paranoid. That can be why he's a psychiatrist, to make certain that men who are thinking like this are medicated properly so that they don't do anything.
Well, I hear you, and I tell, bring it on. Bring it on.
I don't know how much more this nation can take because we know what's going on and we know what's happened. That's the fact of the reality. We know Pelosi's out of touch with reality. We know that Obama's incompetent. We know this. Everybody knows this. We know it's one giant lie after another. But, you know, a tragedy like this should bring the nation together. It shouldn't drive the nation apart. This party has driven a nation apart. They've almost caused a civil war in this country with their hyperbole, with their lies, with their arrogance, with their czars. And now we have this. Wait until you hear the spin tomorrow. Wait until you hear the spin tomorrow. What do you think the spin will be tomorrow? A Fort Hood shooter may have been Army psychiatrist. We know his name is Nidal Malik Hassan, not Malik Nidal. It's Nidal Malik, just in case you want to know the name that just came out. We're trying to follow this by the minute. There are statements that he is a Muslim convert. The Virginia State Medical Licensing Board lists a Nidal Malik Hassan as a psychiatrist for the Army Medical Corps with his primary practice at Darnall Army Medical Center at Fort Hood. According to the records, Hassan completed a residency in psychiatry at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C. in 2007, and additional training in disaster and preventive psychiatry at Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences, Edward Herbert School of Medicine in Bethesda, Maryland, whatever all of that means. And so there it is. Here's the man who is dead. Here is the man who allegedly was one of the two shooters. We heard from a congressman in the last hour that the two who were arrested